4th of February 2022.
I feel absolutely ready to get out there and compete.
A diplomatic boycott of the Beijing Winter Olympic Games.
From news.com.au.
I'm Andrew Bucklow, and I've got news for you. Well, I don't know about you, but I am feeling very Olympic today. Yes, the Winter Olympics are about to kick off in Beijing. The opening ceremony is taking place tonight, and I, for one, am very excited. So excited, in fact, that I've prepared some fun facts for you, you lucky ducks. Okay, here we go. Beijing, where the Games are being held, is the first city to ever host both the Summer and Winter Olympics. I've got another one for you. Now, it doesn't actually snow much in Beijing, so artificial snow will be used for all of the outdoor events. And another one, the official mascot of Beijing 2022 is a panda dressed in a spacesuit called Bing Duen Duen. My apologies if I got that name wrong. I've also got some less fun facts for you. COVID, bloody COVID, it's once again casting a shadow over the Games with incredibly strict restrictions in place, which means there won't actually be many spectators. And then there's also the issue of China's alleged human rights abuses, which have seen several countries, including the US and Australia, boycotting the Games diplomatically. So yeah, it's going to be a pretty interesting Olympics, isn't it? Now in today's episode, we'll find out which Aussies are a chance of winning gold. We'll also meet an 18-year-old who somehow landed a gig as part of Channel 7's commentary team. How on earth did she do that? And we'll also take a look back at the most awkward moments from Olympic opening ceremonies in the past, including a scandalous case of lip syncing. Joining me now is news.com.au's sports editor, James Maddie. James, the Winter Olympics kick off tonight with the opening ceremony. Give me some facts and figures about the Games.
One important fact, I won't be there competing. I didn't make the team this year, but there's always 2026.
You do look great on the ice. It's a surprise to me.
But even without me, Australia's sent along 44 athletes. They're going to compete in 10 events across 5 different sports. There's 23 women in the team, so it's the strongest female representation we've ever had at a Winter Games.
Well, that's exciting. Now, typically we're not great at the Winter Olympics, are we? I mean, how many medals have we won in the past?
Yeah, the whole 45-degree heat thing in this country doesn't bode well for our performance at Winter Games. We started competing way back in the 30s, actually, 1930s, but it took us a fair while. 1994 was when we won our first medal. That was a bronze.
Oh, God, that's 60-something years.
Yeah, that's fast math. And I'll do more fast math now. We've been 28 years later. We've only won 14. We've won 14 other medals in that time. So we've got a total of 15 Winter Olympics medals all up. 2010 was our best result, actually. We got 2 golds and a silver then. Okay,
so 2 gold and a silver. Do you reckon we can beat that here in Beijing? We got some good medal chances?
Why not? Power of positive thinking. We got a few really good medal chances, actually. Laura Peel in the aerial skiing. She won gold at the World Champs last year. She'd go in as one of the favourites.
Yeah, she's looking very appealing.
I'm just going to let that one through to the keeper.
Sure.
Belle Brockhoff and Jared Hughes, they're 2 snowboarders actually, so they're both medal chances in their individual events, and then they'll also be competing in a new sport at this year's Winter Games, the mixed team snowboard cross, which is essentially you sort of go downhill around a course, almost like a car race, but on a snowboard. And it's like a relay. So one person will go first.
Oh, okay.
If they finish 5 seconds ahead of their next competitor, then when their teammate starts off down the downhill run, they get a 5-second head start over the next person to come off the blocks.
Okay, that makes sense. Anyone else who's a medal contender?
We've got Scotty James. He won a medal in Pyeongchang 2018, so he's competing in the snowboard halfpipe. That's a different one to the cross, obviously. I'm trying to think how to explain a halfpipe, but in my head it's you go down and then up into the air, do some fancy tricks, you come back down again because gravity, and then back up again on the other side of half the pipe and keep doing that.
I can't believe that Channel 7 didn't give you a tap on the shoulder to be on the commentary team with an expert analysis of the sport like that.
They couldn't afford me.
$10. Are there any other talking points worth mentioning for these Beijing Games?
Yeah, I think there's a really important one. There's an 18-year-old freestyle skier, Eileen Goo. She's actually born and bred in America, San Francisco, but has chosen to compete for China. She's got her mum's Chinese, and it's been a huge talking point, actually, because she is almost a gold medal certainty. And she said she wanted to compete for China to, inspire millions and billions of people, and it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do that. Caused a bit of consternation, obviously, because she is where she is because she's had all these opportunities and training in America.
Yeah, they would have put so much funding into her.
Yeah, and so there's a bit of question marks whether it is potentially an economic move. I mean, being of Chinese heritage with her mum, competing for China in a Olympics in China, the economic boom would be huge. She's already got tons of sponsors. She's, a face of Victoria's Secret. She's been on the cover of Vogue. So she's already a huge name, but people are questioning what the motives are for suddenly switching allegiances when she's never competed for China before.
What was her name? Eileen Goo.
Eileen Goo.
All right, I'll keep an eye out for her. Now, what about COVID? I imagine that's going to wreak havoc again.
Yeah, well, hopefully not. But there are some pretty strong sort of policies and practices in place. They're doing what's called a closed loop, which is essentially what we know as a bubble, but they think it's probably a bit tighter than that. So athletes, media, officials, all in an enclosed, again, loop. I'm doing air quotes with my fingers. Doesn't really work on a podcast. And so they're not allowed to leave those. We'll call them bubbles for the sake of it.
Sure.
So, overseas spectators are barred. Unfortunately, the general public won't get tickets. You can get invited as a spectator. Spectators can get invited. Again, more air quotes. But they still have to, people getting tested every day, media as well, they have to stay in their own bubbles that they can't leave. And, Olympians obviously coming from overseas, when they're in the bubbles, they have to remain there until they leave the country. There's no getting out of it. And they're getting tested every day.
Right, so they're doing all they can to kind of keep COVID out of the games, basically not letting anyone mix with spectators, and the spectators have to be handpicked by them. Geez, you'd want friends in high places, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I thought it was all a measure to keep you out of China, Bucky, but apparently other reasons behind it as well.
Now, you went to the Tokyo Olympics last year. You covered them for news.com.au. What's it like being a journo at the Games? Give me a bit of insight.
You don't get much sleep.
Right.
Because obviously, hard worker. But yeah, there's a strict COVID bubble there as well. It seems maybe a bit similar to what's going on in China this time, but we weren't allowed anywhere other than our hotel or a venue for the first sort of couple of weeks after you landed. Once you sort of did that 10 to 14 day isolation-y type period where you were only allowed in specific venues, then you could go out. But it does make it very bizarre, and you're obviously going to events with far fewer spectators, empty stands, and it does have an impact on the atmosphere because you're watching people at the pinnacle of their career, do what will be a career highlight, and normally you expect that to be a huge occasion, but there is a slight sort of sense of, this is a bit odd, isn't it? Because you're watching it, there's not the same cheering, it's not the same noise, not the same atmosphere, and the city has a different feel. Like Tokyo, having been in Tokyo before, great city, obviously. You walk around the streets of Tokyo during the Olympics and it was, you'd almost not know that the Olympics were on.
Mia Rennie, who goes by the name Myth, is an 18-year-old who's been described as the future of Australian women's skiing. She has her sights set on Olympic gold in the future, but was unable to compete in Beijing due to a knee injury that she sustained last year. Myth's not going to miss out on the Games entirely though. She'll be a part of Channel 7's commentary team, and I'm delighted to say that she's joining me now. Myth, let's just get the awkward question out of the way first. How bummed are you that you're not competing in Beijing?
Honestly, words can't even describe how shattering it is when you've spent the past 4 to 5 years training for one thing and it gets taken from you because of one little accident. So my auntie Lucy Rouse, she was over in Europe. She was telling me this quote. I was talking to her about getting this new job, and she was like to me, things don't always go to plan, Miss, but when things don't happen and things don't always go, like plan A doesn't work out, just make sure you kick the shit out of plan B. So that's what we're trying to do, trying to stay optimistic. And I think that was a Sheryl Sandberg quote. I'm not entirely sure, but it's a good one. I like that.
All right, so you're going to kick the shit out of plan B, which is commentating. Now, you'll be doing the slope style. What exactly is that for those who aren't really across all the different sports?
Slope style, in my opinion, and I think it should be in everyone's opinion, is probably the coolest snow sport. It's what I do. So on skis and on snowboard, there is a variety of rails and jumps. You are judged on your creativity, your difficulty, your amplitude, and you're pretty much going off of these huge 60, 70-foot jumps, hitting metal rails and doing tricks and spinning as much as you can.
God, no wonder you've got an injury. That sounds daunting.
Yeah.
Commentating is a big job. Have you been training for it? Have you reached out to any of the pros like Hamish McLaughlin or Matt Shervington?
No, not those two. I actually When I did the injury, I was gutted, came home and got the idea of, hey, why don't you commentate it? You talk all the time, like you love the sport, just go have a shot. So I auditioned, kind of left the audition going, hey, I think I did all right, but, I have no experience from this. I don't know if I'm going to get it. Got the call back and they were like, sweet, you got the job. I was like, whoa, okay, amazing, awesome. Completely shook. But then I was speaking to Dirk Nannis and Mick Warhurst, and I've got some advice from some pretty cool people around me. I'm working with Luke Nella, so yeah, I've got some support around me and some coaching, and it's been good.
Talk me through the audition. What's an audition for a commentary gig? Do they just basically make you watch tapes and commentate as if it's live?
Yeah, pretty much. That's exactly what they did. I sat down and they gave me the big chunky headphones and the microphone and were like, all right, go. I was like, oh, all right, okay. And they just replayed the old Olympics footage. So commentated that and did better than I thought I did, apparently.
One of the hardest things as a commentator, I would imagine, would be pronouncing all the names from around the world. Are there any that you think you're going to struggle with?
Not really, because it's the top 30 goes to the Olympics. And they are the top 30 that I have been travelling and competing with for the past 2 years. So I've been on the world tour for the past 2 years now, and I've known them all. So if they were difficult, they're not anymore. So I've got that advantage.
You mentioned on Instagram that some of the skiers competing in Beijing should be nervous because you've got a lot of stories to share. Have any of them reached out to you and said, hey, could you not tell this story? Could you just do us a favour and not drop that one?
Oh man, all the girls are like, oh God, what is she going to say? Yeah, I've been writing up the athlete bios, so that when they drop, I've got some fun little facts for you all to listen to. But yeah, there's a few people that I'm like, oh God, let's come up with some TV-friendly facts. What can I say about these players?
All right, we've also heard that the Aussie athletes over in Beijing have been told not to use their smartphones over there due to cybersecurity issues. Instead, they've been told to use burner phones. You've obviously got a lot of mates over there in the team. Have they spoken to you about that?
I've spoken to them. I mentioned it, but they're more excited about the panda mascot teddy bears and stuff than they are about the burner phones. So I haven't heard too much about all the political side of things.
Now, not that I want to encourage gambling, but if I had some money, who should I put my money on to win gold for Australia in Beijing?
Oh, man, there's actually a lot. We've got a lot of podium potentials this year. Jakara Anthony, Matt Graham, Scotty James, Tess Cody. I mean, even Valentino Gaselli. Danielle Scott. The list goes on. We've got a really strong team over there this year.
Well, I can't wait to watch. I can't wait to hear you commentate as well. An 18-year-old commentating the Olympic Games is pretty wild. So congratulations, Miff, and good luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm so excited.
Well, the opening ceremony is on today, and listen, it's a big production. Things don't always go to plan, so we thought we'd take a look back at the biggest f**k-ups from opening and closing ceremonies at Olympics in the past. Joining me now is news.com.au's entertainment reporter Bronte Coy, who I believe has actually been in an opening ceremony. Is that right?
Yeah, you've called in the expert here. Who better to talk to about opening ceremonies than one of the thousands of children that performed in front of Nikki Webster in the year 2000 at the Sydney Olympics. I did sign language and danced. I'm using the dance very loosely here to Under the Southern Skies. And look, it was my breakout role. So I'm incredibly famous now.
Do you ever recreate it at Christmas parties or anything like that?
Do you know what's insane? I barely remember my own birthday. I remember that entire routine absolutely down pat. Every word, every movement. I think it's probably because we rehearsed for hours on end for about a year, but yes, it stayed with me. All
right, let's take a look now at some of the biggest technical glitches from Olympic ceremonies in the past. Bronte, what's up first?
Okay, this one is really horrific. At the Seoul Olympics in 1988, they released a flock of white doves during the opening ceremony, which sounds lovely. But some of these doves flew into the Olympic cauldron, which hadn't yet been lit, and they perched themselves there. And of course, you can see where I'm going with this. The cauldron was lit, and some of the birds didn't have time to escape, so they were burnt alive. Doves are meant to represent peace, Bucky. It was not so much the case in this instance.
Oh, my God, that's brutal. Bye-bye, birdie. All right, hit me with another one.
Okay, during the Sochi Games in 2014, they had these 5 giant snowflakes hanging from the roof. The snowflakes were meant to change shape into the 5 Olympic rings. Sounds wonderful. but one of them stuffed up and stayed as a snowflake. The producer of the opening ceremony actually defended this mistake, so have a listen to his very creative excuse.
Among 5 rings, one of them didn't open. And you know Zen Buddhists have an idea. If you have an ideally polished ball, you have to leave a scratch to get an idea of how ideally it was polished.
Oh, I like that. He's basically saying, no, it was perfectly imperfect, which is how I've described my body in the past. Okay, hit me with another one, Bronte.
Well, this one's not so much a glitch as it's just really funny. So it happened at the Beijing Games in 2008. You might remember an adorable 9-year-old girl sang an ode to the motherland during the opening ceremony.
Oh, yeah.
She was basically China's Nikki Webster. It was later revealed that she was lip syncing. It wasn't her voice singing that. Oh,
okay,
no.
So whose voice was it?
Okay, this is the worst part. It was actually a 7-year-old girl. And this is brutal. The organisers actually thought about using, the singer in the ceremony, but deemed her face not suitable.
Not suitable. That poor girl now has to live with the shame of her friends and family knowing China decided her face wasn't good enough.
Was not suitable.
All right, have you got another one for me?
All right, well, we can't bag out the others without mentioning the opening ceremony for the Sydney Olympics in 2000. Thankfully, this mistake had nothing to do with me and my stellar performance. So Kathy Freeman had the honour of lighting the cauldron. She lit a ring of fire and then the cauldron rose above her and was meant to ascend to the top of the Olympic Stadium. But it got stuck for 4 excruciatingly long minutes. I don't know if you remember it, Bucky. It really went forever. Here's what Michael Fraser from AGL told Channel 7 about the incident.
A faulty sensor had caused a malfunction in the lifting mechanism and it severed the communications cable that was controlling the ring of fire on its journey. So the engineers, and good on them, they always think about redundancies. They had built in by a radio link another means of communicating with the ring of fire. Before the opening ceremony, the organisers had tried to take that radio link away. If they had taken that radio link away from them, they never would have got the ring of fire to the top of the stadium and the permanent gas supply.
Oh, well, good on them for having a little fail-safe. Engineers saved the day once again. Bronte Coy, thank you for running me through those f***ups from Olympic ceremonies in the past.
I'll look any excuse to relive my 2000 Sydney Olympics performance debut.
We'll have all the latest stories from the Winter Olympics online at news.com.au. Hey, good luck to all of our athletes. If they're listening, please win us some gold medals, okay? Otherwise, when you come home, you'll be skating on thin ice. Can you believe that's the best Winter Olympics pun I could come up with? I'm a disgrace. See ya.